Is the frequency in use? Is the frequency in use? Nothing heard. It looks like it's time for the long wire.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the show. This is, of course, the Long Wire. My name is Alan, N0ZFG, and I'm joined tonight by Matt and Chris. You guys can go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I think we'll probably get into a what's on your workbench segment.
Yeah, hey, thanks for joining us. I'm Chris, KE0JHC. Just excited to be back again, hanging out with the boys and having a little bit of fun. So go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I'm Matt, KE0BXN. Thanks again for inviting me on.
Yeah, man. It's awesome. So this is episode number 4, Too Amateur for Amateur Radio. And I figured tonight we would talk about some of the stuff that's been going, some of the stuff I've heard on the air, and some of the stuff you as a new ham are going to run into on the air, and what you can do or cannot do about it. So we can get into that. But first, let's do what's on our benches. I guess I can kick things off. So as usual, I've got 500,000 things cooking at once. I guess the latest thing is I finally have a 3D printer, a decent sized one.
Whoop.
Yeah. So I've been, I've been limited to, 150 by 150 by 50 millimeter prints with my resin printer. And as fun as that was, it was time to scale things up a little bit because I wanted to start doing some mechanical things. I wanted to be able to do some gear trains and stuff like that, and some enclosures and stuff. So I finally I got a Creality Ender 5 Plus, and what a fantastic machine so far. I've had zero issues with it. It pretty much worked straight out of the box. I would encourage replacing the Bowden tube immediately with the Capricorn tube, simply because of the fittings that they use to hold that the PTFE tube or the stock Bowden tube in. You can pull it out by hand basically if you work it a little bit. So one could imagine after a few dozen prints or whatever, that tube is starting to back out and you lose your seal and your hot end, and it's going to be pain and sadness for you. So go ahead and invest that, what is it, 15 or 20 bucks or whatever it is for the Capricorn Bowden tube, and upgrade that and the fittings, and life is good. That's the only real must have immediate upgrade for this thing that I would say. Other than that, it's been pretty good. Work continues on Project Redline, my portable SDR system. I'm still working on the logging software for it, so that's been an interesting challenge, getting it to communicate back and forth with QRZ. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I ran into an interesting problem where it tried to upload all of QRZ, so that was a bit of a panic moment. Man, let's see what else. Been working on getting some content out there, some programming content for the XTL series. We did, our basic programming, and then we did the basic P25. I'm working on one coming up soon for the MDS. So MDS is a fantastic feature of these radios. So MDS 1200 anyway, not 600. MDS 600 is for peasants. Oh man, what else? I could probably go on forever with all this extra stuff I got going on, but I'll let one of you guys take it. What are you guys working on?
Matt, you want to go first?
Well, I'm not really working on a whole lot. I mean, a lot of lasering, a lot of 3D printing, and blew the dust off the radio here recently and started doing some FT8 again.
Sharks with lasers.
What was that?
Every time you say lasers, I think of sharks with lasers.
It's good. But yeah, so that's been, kind of the biggest thing, FT8 and lasers.
Yeah.
And since the weather's been nice, I've been getting outside, spending time with family, and
Yep.
doing yard work, and before you know it, we'll be more on the grass.
Or blowing snow again.
Oh, it's snow again. How about you, Chris?
Oh, yeah. So, Alan knows I have been working on a Behringer X32 from our church. Having some communication issues with the digital stage box on stage and whatnot. Just slowly collecting parts and everything I need to do to start doing some SMD soldering, desoldering and resoldering, and yeah, so that's a huge project. I don't know if you guys can see it over in the corner there.
Sweet.
I can't even.
Yeah. I know.
Right there.
I seen some of the pictures you had sent me, and that's beautiful assembly in that thing.
Oh, it is beautiful
Yeah.
inside. I mean, the circuit boards on it are awesome.
Yeah.
Beautifully labeled, like super laid out, really nice. So, yeah, I'm just getting ready to start tearing into that thing. It's gonna be a fun project.
Yes.
Luckily, we have a spare mixer board at the church that we can use for the time being. So I'm not in a huge rush to get this done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm learning something new.
Awesome. Yeah, man. Just that surface SMD stuff, surface mount soldering, it's an absolute rite of passage for any ham radio operator or electronics enthusiast, because it's a huge step up from through hole. And honestly, once you get comfortable with SMD, you're never going to want to go through hole ever again. So
Yeah.
you're going to start doing all your designs in surface mount, and because I know that's what I'm doing, man. I barely have any through hole components anymore. So
Yeah. I just got in another package from Mauser Electronics yesterday, I think. So I should have everything I need. Right now, I just finding time to sit down for more than an hour to pull the trigger on it. So
yeah, I mean, there's the only drawback to SMD is there is a little bit of a cost of entrance, I guess, if you want to look at it like that. Because I mean, SMD tools aren't cheap. Get a proper rework station, or a hot air gun, and but you don't necessarily need. I mean, you don't need, like your hot air gun. You don't need to top a line one. You just kind of adapt your techniques to suit. So it's definitely a learning curve, that's for sure. I damaged more than one circuit board learning how to do surface mount stuff, especially when you get boards that have huge ground planes in them. 'Cause, man, they suck up the heat, and you'll rip traces off if you get impatient. So, I mean, the biggest thing is just keep adding heat until you see that component move a little bit, and as soon as you see it move, man, pull it right off. So, yeah, so that's what's on our benches, I guess. And I'm sure we all have hundreds of other things that we didn't mention. There's just so much of it. It's tough to narrow it down sometimes.
yeah, that's the big thing for me. Taking up literally all the space in my office here.
Yeah.
I got my soldering station off to the right side here. That's on a fold-out table on the left, and I don't even want to fire up the 3D printer because I'm afraid I'll knock something over onto that X32 and break something. So.
Yeah.
So, Chris, at least you're contained to one room. I've now spread out along the entire basement now. So,
Well, I do live in a 3-bedroom apartment, so I can't really expand too much farther because I would either move into my daughter's room with stuff or my bedroom with stuff, and my wife would murder me.
I'll just wait for the neighbors to move out, and then you can just rent another apartment.
And
Yeah, you can rent your 3D printer and apartment on the side.
There you go.
Visit it on the weekends.
right, I'll just set it up with a little robotic arm that'll scrape the parts off.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, especially now that the weather's turning nice out. when I get outside and do so much stuff, my list of things to do is exploded. I have to get new wheels and tires for my garden tractor, and since this thing is from this thing's from 1956, you know, so they measured tire sizes in Freedom units back then in inches. So I went to 2 different tire shops today, and none of them just have they all were like, wow, we need to convert this to metric, but then it won't fit right. And it's like I need to get new rims anyway. It's like, pick a rim that's about the same size and then pick the appropriate tire that fits that rim. It's like, this isn't rocket science. So I think I can find everything I need online anyway. I'll probably end up paying a bit more for it, but in the end, I don't have to deal with people. That's the hardest part. Is dealing with people. Oh, man.
I wonder if UPS would deliver that.
Well, so like when I got this toolbox for my 3D printer out here, it just came on Yellow Freight. So, or was it YRD? I forget what name it is. It's just a freight company. They have that, you know, most freight companies have the last mile service where they'll put it on a straight truck and deliver it right to your house with a Tommy lift and stuff. So that's usually how this will go.
I've never actually ordered something that big, so I wouldn't know.
Oh, see, it's always XPO for me.
XPO, that's what I was thinking of. XPO.
Always XPO.
Yeah.
There's one week they came twice, and then we had Lowe's stop by 3 times. I'm pretty sure my neighbors thought we were insane.
So with XPO, do you have to like ship it through them, or is that just like the end transport?
So this toolbox, I bought it through Home Depot, bought it online, and then just clicked the ship it to my house option, and they worked it out. So
cool.
So the drawback to that was, and had I known it was going to take this long, I would have just gone down to Fargo and picked it up myself. But my trailer was buried. My trailer that I needed to use to haul this thing was buried under about 9 feet of snow. And I was like, I'm not digging this out just to go get a toolbox, especially when there's a delivery option. You know, I'll choose that.
So what you're saying is you guys still have 9 feet of snow on top of that trailer.
Well, I got the trailer out. It turned out to be not as difficult as I thought it was, you know, since the snow had started to get soft and melt and stuff. But it took nearly a week for the toolbox to get from Home Depot to the freight company. And then it
ship out of Fargo.
Yeah. And then, it took another like 3 days to get from the shipping company in Fargo to where I'm at, which is like a 45-minute drive. So hindsight being what it is, next time I'm just going to go pick it up.
Especially when it's that close.
In this case,
even if it's only down in St. Cloud or something, that's
I know.
worth the drive.
It's like, I had that moment where I was thinking, it's like, man, you're really being lazy on this one. And then it's like, you know what? I don't care. I don't want to deal with this. It's cold outside. I don't want to dig that trailer out. So.
No, I had them come pick up my old laser, and it took them a week to get here.
Really? Yeah. It is pretty cool. They have a GPS tracker on the truck. You can watch the truck's progress on the map.
Really?
Yeah.
I never got that.
Yeah.
I guess my shippers got a little stingy.
Yeah.
You guys don't have Amazon delivery up there, do you?
No. So
we have actual Amazon delivery here. So when you order anything and it gets delivered by Amazon's own shipping department, it'll tell you how many stops away it is. It'll show where they're at on the map.
Oh, that's cool.
Amazon.
So it is kind of nice. And then all of a sudden, when you see that there's one stop left, and you wait the rest of the day and it doesn't show up, and then you get a notification that they lost it. Yeah, that's always nice.
Just curious, how long does it normally take you to get your Amazon packages?
So we have a distribution center. It's either in Omaha or in Council Bluffs. Some stuff I can get next day.
God, I hate you so much.
I've ordered something at like 8 o'clock at night and got it next day.
So I'm a Prime member, and it now takes about a week.
Yeah. It takes.
Yeah, that's how it was when I was up there too. I was a Prime member, and in order to get anything up in that area, it was a week. It was unreal.
I mean,
we got a warehouse now in Fargo.
Yeah. I know Tamara just ordered some sublimation printing equipment off Amazon. I think it took almost a week for them to even ship it, much less it get here.
So I've had them wait a week, and then they'll overnight it.
Really?
UPS. It's like,
it's still better than SurePost.
oh,
If you
Yeah,
order
that's
something,
horrible.
if you order something and it's like, oh, they're going to ship it UPS, and then you see the tracking number and it's a SurePost on it, it's like it's guaranteed it's going to get lost, no matter what. The USPS will screw it up somehow.
Yes.
So I have yet to have anything arrive SurePost that didn't have some sort of issue with it. So frustrating. All right.
Hey, as much as I hate ordering from Amazon, it is really convenient to get stuff, especially when it's Prime and next day.
Well,
You can't beat it.
that's why we don't even get. I used to get stuff next day from DigiKey. I'd order it at like 7, 8 o'clock at night. It'd be here the next day, just because they're just over there in Thief River Falls.
Yeah.
Now it's 3 or 4 days before I get anything from DigiKey. So
See, and that's about the same for me if I order down here from DigiKey. It takes about 3 days to get out of like the Grand Forks area. So it's not just you.
okay.
It takes about 4 to 5 days for me.
Oh man. So I guess let's address a topic that came up in a recent video of mine about programming XTL radios. The question was, the person wants to set one of these up for use on GMRS. While technically the radio is capable of it, for sure, it is definitely not legal. You are in violation of, is it Part 90 for GMRS? You're certainly in violation of Part 90 for the radio equipment itself, because the equipment itself is Part 90 compliant. And if you're taking it onto a different service like that, Uncle Charlie is going to be disappointed in you. And Matt's gone. So
Yeah, and Matt's gone. He did just send me a message and said he will be right back. So.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess my thoughts on that, Alan. You could have it programmed for that to scan.
Oh yeah,
to
for sure.
To
Yeah.
GMRS, that would totally be legal.
Yeah.
Listening is a different thing, but as soon as you hit the PTT and
Yep.
start transmitting, you are now out of your what'd you say? Part 90.
Part 90.
whole-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because I believe on GMRS, I think you're limited to, I think it's 3 watts. You can't have a removable antenna.
Yeah, and that's the thing that gets you on a lot of these commercial radios is they'll all have a removable antenna.
Yep.
And GMRS specifically states that you cannot have a removable antenna on a portable.
Right.
But then you kind of read into the base station stuff on it, and it's kind of there's a lot of gray area.
Yeah, there is a lot of
GMRS.
there is a lot of gray area. Although I think for like a base
'Cause-
station or a repeater, I think you're still limited to, is it 60 feet and 20 watts or something like that? I don't remember.
I think you can run 50 watts on a base station, but yeah, there's definitely a height limit. I want to say it was like 50 foot,
Yeah.
but I don't remember that offhand. We
Yeah.
actually do have a group of GMRS guys down here in Omaha
Okay.
that are working on putting up an actual GMRS repeater.
Yeah.
There's a couple guys that have them at their houses, with just the antenna like in their attic and stuff.
Yeah.
They actually have pretty decent coverage from what it sounds like.
Okay.
So I've thought about getting or making a cheap little antenna just to jump on and see what those guys are up to.
Nice.
A couple of them are hams, so they kind of the talk in the chats and stuff. It's like, no, that you can't say that because that's a ham rule, not a GMRS rule.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah, you start getting into different conversations there and whatnot.
Well, it's kind of like dropping some 10 code on your local ham repeater. I mean, using 10 code on a local ham repeater, I mean, you might as well have thrown a grenade into a crowded room.
Yes, you might as well.
I personally don't have a problem with it. I use 10 code all the time, so
Yeah.
it doesn't bother me at
when
all.
I was up in that area, we used to.
Yeah.
Once in a while, I'd get barked at.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
they
whatever.
they equate 10 code to, you know, CBers and truckers and stuff, and it's like, I mean, on the fire department, man, if it's good enough for, you know, first responders, it's good enough for me. I'll use 10 code. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
It's easy to remember.
I mean, especially if you're someone saying something and you just want to acknowledge, like 10-4.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
exactly.
cool. I don't
Yeah.
want to say anymore, but 10-4, that's all I need.
Right, exactly. I'm not a fan of Q code. I don't like it. I don't use it.
Yeah.
But that's personal preference, you know. That's just me. To each his own, right? I'm not gonna berate somebody for using Q code, but I probably won't use it. So I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that. I use like QRZ if I'm calling CQ or QSL. Yeah, I use QSL. So
Yeah, but using like QRM and QRD
Yeah.
and like all that stuff, and
yeah,
that gets to be too much. I could see why they do it in CW to shorten it up. Obviously,
Yeah,
That
and
was the
in
original
CW 'cause that's, I
reasoning
mean,
for it, but
that's originally where it came from. I think was ship to shore communication via Morse code in CW. So
yeah.
in those cases, it behooved you to be quick and to the point. You know, especially
Right,
if you're
someone would be sitting there for 45 minutes, dit down out like, yeah, I acknowledge that. Thanks, man.
right. I mean, maybe the Titanic could have been saved if they'd have used 10 code.
You never know.
Somehow, I doubt it though.
I mean, when you think about it, I mean,
Yeah,
that's pretty quick.
it is pretty
honestly.
quick. Yep, yep, yep. That's an easy one to let everyone know who can hear you that, you know, things have gone pear-shaped and have been going pear-shaped for quite some time.
We probably should have sent this out an hour ago, but we're sending it out
Yeah.
now, so get your butts in gear.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what was the? I seen a shirt not that long ago that I wanted to get. It had a caption. It was a picture of the Titanic on it, and it had quotations underneath. It says, "What the hell was that? The Titanic, 1912." Good stuff. So yeah, GMRS, fine to listen to. Don't transmit unless you have a GMRS or Part 90 compliant piece of equipment or something that complies with the GMRS rules, we'll say.
Yeah, I mean, and then you look at it. I turn on my GMRS here and I listen to it. And, you hear a lot of businesses running on the GMRS.
Yes, you
band
do.
and stuff
Yeah,
like that. And,
GMRS and FRS
yeah.
and
I guarantee the FCC is not out here looking to hammer on these guys
Yeah.
running GMRS like that. But
I don't know
to
if
be
you-
kind and courteous.
and it's
I
not.
also recommend, getting the license.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
$35.
Yep, for sure.
It's for the family, so
And it's cheap. So
yeah, I should say it's very reasonable, especially now that they restructured their pricing.
Oh yeah, I got mine right after they did that, and we're definitely going to be using that this summer when we go camping and doing stuff like that. So
oh man. So I mean, I don't know if you guys remember or not. This was, what was it? Pretty close to 5 years ago now, but up by the Pembina area, I think it wasn't quite somewhere up there, up by the Pembina area. There was a big farming outfit that Uncle Charlie busted them for because they were using marine radios.
oh yeah,
And I guess I should clarify, Uncle Charlie is the FCC. So I'm so used to calling the FCC Uncle Charlie. So
well, I thought it was your actual uncle.
no. Yeah. So yeah, Uncle Charlie equals FCC. Anyway, they showed up and every piece of equipment that had a marine radio in it, they impounded. So,
Oh man.
and I remember hearing about that story, and I had to ask John Vick about it, and he confirmed every bit of it. They showed up, they had done their investigation. A couple days later, they came back with semis and loaded up the tractors that the radios were in. They loaded up the pickups that the radios were in, and
Wow.
they impounded everything until their equipment was removed and the fines were paid. And they fined them that was like a it was like $125,000 or $200,000. So FCC does not screw around with lawbreakers.
The question is, was it worth it? I don't think so.
I don't think so. No. So
then that kind of leads into the question about the discussion of GMRS for farming.
right.
I would say as long as, I guess I don't remember if there's rules in there about like in furtherance of a business or anything like that, but
I don't remember.
I thought you could use it for a business as long as everyone is using their call sign. Like if me, you, and Matt were in a business, right, and we're using GMRS,
Yeah.
you have to be using your own call signs, and you guys have to be licensed. But then I could hand the radio to Mel, and she could use my call sign because she's, she falls under the family umbrella there.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not.
But I have seen farmers using GMRS. Obviously, you're not going to get the range out of them that you would with business band.
Right.
Especially if you have a tower that, say 100-foot tower on your farm site.
I mean, realistically, if you're going to be using radio for business, I mean, the amount of risk that you're going to incur and the price for being caught is honestly cheaper in the long run just to get business band equipment and license the appropriate business band channels. So,
do you happen to know offhand how much a business band license is?
it kind of depends on your area. Here it's $60 per frequency, so $120 if you want a frequency pair for a repeater.
It's really not bad.
No, and then there's some filing fees and stuff like that, but I mean, it's really not bad. You can go. I think there's some services out there online that will handle all the paperwork to and from the FCC on your behalf, and they charge about $500. So,
Okay.
but that's if you're going to put up a repeater site, because you got to have your geolocation, your height, your power, what mode you're using.
Yeah.
There's a listening time frame. You get your provisional frequencies assigned, and then you got to monitor them for a certain amount of time, make sure that no one else is already using them. So, and if there is, and they're not supposed to be, then you got to report that to the FCC, and then they got to come out and show up and start flashing badges and figuring out what's going on. So it can be a whole big thing, but for the most part, it really isn't. Plus, like on the business band, you don't have to deal with some of the, the inconveniences of amateur radio, we'll say, such as like in this area, the poor repeater performance. So, because then you're in direct control of that, if you've licensed the frequencies, it's up to you to put your own repeater up, and then you're going to be the one maintaining it. So,
Right, and you'd have access to it.
And you have access to it. Yeah, you don't have to go through a congressional session to get access to the repeater. Twice, yeah. So, and I get it. I mean, people get busy, and then especially when a club is involved, especially if there's a lot of red tape, no one specifically knows who's supposed to be maintaining it, and depending on how organized the club is, right? I mean, you can get a lot of finger pointing that goes on, and then before you know it, the equipment hasn't been maintained in 15 years, and it's starting to show. And don't even get me started on voice IDers and CW IDers, and oh my God. Yeah, I can hear you on the input. That is something that will instantly cause me to just lose my mind. Someone's been tying up the repeater for 45 minutes, and they say, "Yeah, I can hear you on the input." That's great. But so anyway, I mean that kind of ties into the next thing is to amateur radio. Some of the stuff that you're gonna hear on HF, especially these days. I mean,
can I say one that's not HF?
Yeah.
The guys on VHF, right, or
Yep.
UHF, I guess, that got the Bowfangs, and they turn on the
Roger Beep. Oh, the
Sorry,
Roger Beep. Oh man, I'm kind of guilty in that I'm using MDC 1200. It's not so much of the Roger Beep as that you get that digital packet at the end of your transmission.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, you when you unkey the radio, you get that screech real quick of data being sent, and that's how the receiving radio knows what to display. You know, the radio ID, or if you've got your contact list set up, you know who's specifically calling. So,
okay. So I got a question. With that, is that analog, and then it just shoots a little packet at the end?
Yeah, it's analog.
That's cool.
So, I mean, it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's kind of like the best part of digital in that you can have specific call lists, so you can have your radio call a specific another radio and have a private conversation between the two. And then, you know who's calling because you can see it on your display if you set it up right.
Yeah.
And then you also get the quote, I'm gonna use my air quotes, the longer range of analog, because you can get down into the noise with it. You know, whereas digital, it's either going to work or it's not. So.
Yeah.
But you can set up on some of the nicer radios, like the XPRs will do it. The XTLs and the XTSs will do it, but it's called DOS, digital operated squelch. So it'll actually mute that audio, that digital packet, so you don't hear that, which is kind of nice.
Okay, that's kind of like the way I'm thinking of it is like there's a couple repeaters around that the Morse ID, the CW ID, is sent out with a tone, so that if you don't have that tone programmed in, you're not going to hear it on your radio.
Yep.
Same concept.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And you can work tones in on top of the MDC to get a bit more granularity too. So,
okay,
like if you've got 3 different repeaters, you can have those repeaters on the same frequency, but using different PL tones. Yep. So you can kind of have a lot of fun with that. I really do like MDC. So, and I kind of enjoy having that data packet at the end of it. Because it's like, it kind of takes you back, because it's like the sound of 90s VHF, commercial VHF. Because, you know, if you've ever seen the show Cops from, you know, back in the 90s, late 90s, early 90s, late 80s, that's what those radios sounded like. So,
yeah.
So it's kind of fun. So, and that noise isn't being, so, I mean, you can set up your radio to not hear that if you don't want to hear it. So it's not like a Roger Beep where it's embedded and everyone has to hear it. You have the option on your end to squelch it out. But so back to the crap you shouldn't do on HF, or the things you're going to hear. The biggest one, right? The worst offense you can commit, which is, I think is right up there with some of the unforgivable sins, is tuning up on frequency. So, I mean, if there's a DX station out there, or someone's calling CQ or whatever, and you want to talk to them, roll off a couple KCs and tune up there, and then come back. Yeah. You're not going to be you're not going to be far enough out of tune where it's going to make any difference. Sitting there right on frequency, tuning up on top of them, all it does is, you know, maybe these people haven't heard it before, but it is the most high-pitched, shrill noise you're ever going to hear, especially if you wear headphones. It's just unbelievably annoying. So
I've noticed that if you're sitting there and you're trying to pick out a station, right, and they're way down in the noise already, and then somebody tunes up, like, you know, full 1500 watts. Right, It's ridiculous.
I know. It's just move away, 3 KCs or whatever, and tune up over there.
That's my thing is I always move up at least 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Up or down.
Because, it's everyone. Well, yeah, I got to have my 1.0 to 1 SWR. It's like, no, you don't. If you're under 2, who cares? I mean, seriously, so long as you're under 2 to 1, nobody cares. Your radio doesn't care.
No.
So
my auto tuner doesn't guarantee anything less than like a 1.5.
yeah.
So
Yeah, mine, same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll run at 2 to 1. I don't care.
I've run at 5 to 1 before. It doesn't. It's like it's not that big of a deal. It really isn't. I mean,
No. Nope.
there's been this. I mean, so in like at the commercial radios, I've seen them run at 10 to 1 before, and they not care. So this idea that this high SWR is extremely detrimental. I mean, it's a little bit of a. I won't say it's a myth. There's definitely a lot of truth to it. If you get too high, yeah, you're going to start attenuating your signal, and you're going to start, your final amplifier is going to run hotter than it should, But honestly, if you keep it below 2 to 1, you'll be fine, 100% fine.
The other thing to keep in mind too is a lot of modern equipment has a lot of protective circuits.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The older stuff, not quite as much.
But communications at less than 1,500 watts is absolutely impossible, Matt. You should know that. So if you've got anything other than 1.0 to 1, you're not getting the full 1.5 kilowatt out of that antenna.
You're right. I didn't want to hear myself.
In which case, nobody can hear you at that point. So I don't know. I've never been above 200 watts myself. I take that back. I have.
I was just saying that you had that amplifier for a short time.
Yeah, and I have that 450 watt amp. It's got from your dad, Matt. The one I think it used to be Foy's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that'll run. I pushed that up to 600, so
I still need to get that SB220 in line.
I don't particularly like running a lot of power. I definitely don't like running a tube amplifier. I know it sounds weird because I love vacuum tubes. I love AM receivers and shortwave receivers and stuff like that. But for your daily driver HF stuff, nope, I don't want tubes. I don't want to have to spend 2 or 3 minutes tuning up to get it dialed in. I just want to push the button and magic happens and we're on the air.
Turn it on and let's go.
Yeah.
Honestly, I worry about the cost of the tubes.
Yeah, well, they're definitely up there. I mean, fortunately, the bigger tubes are, your 3.500s and your 3.450s and stuff, and they're not ridiculously expensive. I don't think they're Russian made. I don't think I don't know who's making iMac. I guess I thought iMac was a U.S. company, but I might be wrong. I know guitar amp and audio amp tubes are retardedly expensive these days. So you can get Chinese tubes though, and the Chinese tubes really aren't that bad. So
so the 3.500Zs are about $250.
Yeah, it's not bad. Especially if you get the graphite plate ones, then you can really drive the snot out of them.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I've seen some of those amps that is it BBI? He puts together.
Graphite ones. Sorry.
I think it's BBI. He builds the 11 meter amps for the old Charlie Bakers. He's got I think his station is like 40 kilowatt. And so here's the other thing. It's like Uncle Charlie is perfectly happy to come down and crack down on your amateur radio station if you're running 1,510 watts. But a guy running a CB station is running 40 kilowatts and nobody cares. I mean, what must his name?
Because you don't. Would you really want to be the agent that has to go knock on that guy's front door?
I mean, yeah. I mean, but what must the neighbors think? I mean, they probably have a cupboard full of popcorn that's just popping on its own because it's being subjected to 40 kilowatts of RF.
Right. Just all the time,
Oh.
fire alarms are going on.
I know.
Your
It's just-
fans are resonating at weird frequencies.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. RF is not like regular electricity, man. It does weird things. The higher you go in power, it starts to become more and more witchcraft and black magic.
Yeah, I do remember when we were living in an apartment in Crookston there, I had what was it? It was just a Motorola Max Track VHF radio.
Yeah.
I don't know if I got it from JV or if I got it from the guy up in Thief River, but it was only like 20 watts and I had an antenna for it. And I just had the antenna like sitting in the window.
Yeah.
And I got on it one night and Mel was sleeping and I keyed up and every single fire alarm in the apartment went off. Oops. Power off. I don't know what that was.
So the
You know,
sorry,
somebody
back.
else in Forks had that issue in an apartment. Where they're keying
Yeah.
out their, I think it was their HF, and they'd set off the fire alarms. And I actually had an issue with my old 450D when I was in the apartment. I was running digital modes for the first time, and the GFCI breaker on my wife's hairdryer kept clicking.
So I don't know if it was an issue with just that one apartment because even using a handheld at 5 watts would do the same thing. It would make
Wow.
all the fire alarms go off in our apartment.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, and it got me thinking, like, okay, if the sheriff showed up here and he got on his radio and keyed up, would it do the same thing? But they were running 800 megahertz there, so probably not. But
I've only had 2 interesting experiences doing stuff like that, and so I have an XTL in my truck, 110 watt VHF, and if I key that thing up in the McDonald's drive-through, and it doesn't matter which McDonald's because they've all switched to the same LED lights on the outside of their building, they all will power cycle. So it's absolutely
awesome.
it's like clockwork. You just got to tap the PTT button, and all that the exterior lights on like that side of the building that you can see will power cycle.
they're actually just taking after aviation.
Oh,
When you come in on final, you
Yeah.
click the PTT 3 times to
Oh,
turn the
activate-
the
yeah, activate
runway
your lights,
down
yeah.
to low. Yeah.
the other one was there was an ATM on the south end of Grand Forks that if I keyed up that VHF next to it, the ATM would shut off. Like it was just, I mean, it's just like you pulled the plug on it. It just completely shuts off. And
Was it the style that like takes your card and like sucks the card in?
Yep. So, and, the first time it happened, I thought it was a coincidence or whatever, but I did it 3 times. I mean, it just shuts off, and it takes about 15 minutes for it to come back. It does a reboot, and it comes back.
I was gonna say, I thought it didn't come back one time.
Yeah. Okay. So there is the one time it didn't come back, and unfortunately, that bank's no longer there. So- and I haven't been. We'll say I've been curious enough not to try it at the new location because it looks like their ATM is considerably more expensive than the other one. But I always
Yeah,
figured something like
RF does some weird stuff.
Yeah.
We're talking about weird stuff.
yeah. I seen your light going on and off back there.
40 meters.
Oh, your work. Are you on 40 meters right? Well, obviously you must be.
Yeah.
FT8.
Just wait. It'll pop back on here in a second.
Craziness. Oh
One of those
man.
touch lamps. And it makes me wonder how many other neighbors they have touch lamps. Middle of the night, lights coming on.
That's funny. So that was one item. I guess what's the other big one for me? Oh, the made up phonetics,
Yes.
Radio
Yes.
Sugar, Havana, because that's super obvious. Xylophone. I've heard some weird stuff out of there. There's been times where I've just refused to log someone because they're using just the dumbest phonetics. So it's like use standard phonetics or just don't Just don't bother. And some people say
just
that.
don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people say like saying sugar gets you a higher peak, more power out than Sierra does. But I mean, I don't care.
That little bit of power out isn't going to matter on the receiving end.
Right, exactly. And the other thing is like now you're forcing the guy that's listening to switch gears because he's expecting normal phonetics. At least someone like me is. I'm expecting normal phonetics, and now I got to think about it. Okay, what is that for now? Yeah, radio sugar is probably fairly easy. RS, but people start like xylophone, especially when it's weak signal, trying to pick out the word xylophone. Are you serious?
Well, and xylophone sounds like it starts with a Z.
I know. That's what I mean. It's like, God, just stop doing that. So anyway, those are my two big ones. I don't know. What do you guys got?
I gave you the one about the Bofang. I don't know. I guess
I do have one that's VHF related. That's the voice idea for a VHF or UHF or any ham repeater, I guess.
Oh yeah,
the older ones.
Like, is it Grandin that's got one?
Yeah, Grandin's got one.
Grandin. This is the Grandin VHF amateur radio repeater. The time is 7:37 p.m.
Yeah, and then it goes through it. I think it tells you the temperature and all that. I mean, it takes a solid like 2 or 3 minutes to get through it, and it's like, you know what? If like we were using this for Skywarn or something, it's like that's utterly useless.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I feel like this whole episode has been nothing but negativity.
I mean, you did title it "Too
Amateur for Amateur."
right?
Oh man.
But
I mean, I have pet peeves, but nothing that's, I guess, really driven me too nuts.
Well, then they can't be real pet peeves then.
Well, like calling CQ on a repeater.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I don't know. It just kind of rubs me the wrong way. But
picking up the mic and keying up on the local repeater and saying, "This is N0 ZFG CQ CQ CQ." Somewhere out there, someone's punching their radio.
I have heard it.
And then it's like you hear that on HF too. Someone saying it like that: CQ CQ CQ, and it's like, man, this guy sounds like the life of the party.
I really want to talk to this guy.
I have done that. I'm guilty of that because otherwise I talk too fast otherwise, and I feel like I'm saying it slow, like CQ CQ CQ.
I intentionally say it fast just because like when I'm on the air, I kind of get in that mode where I'm talking somewhat quickly anyway. So it's for me, it's typically like CQ 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 N0 ZFG 40 meters CQ CQ CQ. Standing by and listening. And
that's what your goal is, I guess. Like if I hop on and I'm just trying to rock out contacts, yeah, I'll talk faster. But if I want to reg you, I'm not in a big hurry.
I do it just to mess with people. I'll do it fast like that, and then when I finally get something on the air, then it's immediate into rag chew mode. So, and that's because honestly that's the best part. That's what I like the most about HF is having the rag chew and spending 30 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever talking to somebody new.
I have not been on voice in a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
You're missing out. I mean, there's a lot of excitement on there, especially when you get on. Sometimes you can hear Russian jamming stations on there. So that's kind of neat to listen to. But yeah, I mean, especially if you're on late at night, there's a lot of cool folks on the air. Weekends are hit or miss whether or not there's going to be contests on, or there's a lot of parks on the air, a lot of volunteers on the air now. So, I mean, they're not bad. I don't mind the parks on the air and volunteers on the air. The contests are getting to be a bit much for me sometimes. But I don't know. There's still space, even with a contest on. There's still space up in 40 meters you can go. 20 meters is usually ruined, but
Well, and the thing is, with 20 meters, you can just jump up to 17.
Oh, yeah.
17
Yeah.
has been my new favorite band. I've been doing a ton of DX on 17 lately.
Typically, if there is a contest going on and you want to get on and rage chew with someone, they'll be up on 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't contest on 17, 12, or 30.
Well,
Wait, is that an actual rule?
there's really no law saying
Well,
you
they're-
can't.
they're work
You
bands.
could,
A lot of the
Um,
contests aren't valid on those.
right?
But the FCC
So-
isn't going to come burn your house down because
Well,
you're doing.
I mean, so that's kind of a thing with the parks on the air is some of these guys will do parks on the air on like 17 and whatever you call it, is the work bands. Is that what you said, Matt?
Yeah.
The WARC. Technically, they're not contesting. They're set up out in a park doing portable operations.
Yeah.
And really, when you're doing parks on the air, you don't even have to say, "Hey, I'm doing parks on the air." You can just go out and set up portable and log a bunch of contacts without even saying, "I'm at Park Kilo 4241."
Yep.
That's not part of the exchange content needed for parks on the air. So
Right.
that's kind of my rebuttal on people that get all uptight about that. Hey, they're out there, they're using the frequencies. Like, we're in a dying hobby. Like, let's get out there and use our equipment.
Yeah.
So,
I know I've heard that before. Like, ham radio is dying. I don't necessarily think it's dying. It's definitely changing. It's changing phases right now. You know. It's kind of like
yeah, I guess you're right.
it's-
It's changing.
yeah.
It's not dying.
There's a lot of new people that are coming into it. You know, unfortunately, some of our more senior members are starting to pass on, and you know, we're starting to see more digital stuff. You know, a lot more software defined stuff. We're starting to see less tube, less boat anchors, less tube stuff. CW is just as strong as it's ever been. There's a lot of new people getting into CW, which is fantastic.
I still have an interest in it. I don't know if I can wrap my.
Well, so do I. I would love to do it. The problem is I'm lazy. So, I mean, it's not easy.
Yep.
It's like learning another language. So,
I have 2 keys sitting here, ready to go, and haven't done a darn thing with them.
there goes the train. It's so loud for me. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but
No, I don't hear it
thought
at
you were
all.
talking about me going off the rails.
no. Working on those dad jokes, I see.
What can I say?
Oh man. But it's so, you know, along with a lot of the, you know, we'll say the more amateur things you'll hear out there, there's still a lot of really good operators out there. You know, I even heard they were doing the school, it was a school club roundup, and the little girl that was running the station, I think she was 8 or 9 years old or whatever, had this massive pileup, and she was not afraid to tell people what she thought, because people are coming at it like Tail and Charlie, throwing half a call sign out there, and she had no issue with telling us full call signs only, or you won't be logged. So
That's awesome.
yeah, and it was just absolutely cool to see. And she was holding her own, man. She was doing better than I usually do in a pileup. So, especially being
I've had a couple pileups that really got overwhelming, and finally I was just like, all right, guys, I got to be done. Like, my brain cannot take this anymore. Like,
So the thing that I always try to remember when I'm in kind of the middle of a pileup is I'm in control of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
if I'm done, I'm done. I don't have to stick around for somebody else. I mean,
All you
I
got,
try to stick around, but there also comes a point where you got to be real with yourself too and be like, hey, I have not drank anything for the past 2 hours. It's time.
all you got to do is wait for the lull, the lull in the pileup, and be like, and QRT, and that's it. You're done.
yep.
If you want to use the Q code.
I know. there's been a couple times where I'm like, all right, this is gonna be my last call. Like, I'll take one more and that's it. And then, all right, thanks for the QSO, blah 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 blah. K0JHC QRT, and then people will still call me back, like try calling me. I'm like, guys, like, no, I'm done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially when like a North Dakota station,
Yeah,
the
you
pilot
guys
just
got it
never
bad
ends.
because everybody wants North Dakota stations for the work to all states because there's not that many of you guys.
Right. Yeah.
I actually got an email here from a Russian station that wants to do a scheduled contact here in the next couple days on 40.
Nice.
So, and I also talked to somebody else, got an email from them, and they were like, hey, I was in your area about 11 years ago. I used to live up there and moved on to warmer places, but I guess they had a bunch of friends in my area here, so
Oh, cool.
it's interesting to, hear from people from North Dakota.
I would just like to touch on in the chat. Victor makes an amazing point that the lack of people teaching. Yeah, he couldn't be more right there. That's kind of the whole reason this channel exists. It's for the new ham, right? I know currently it's been kind of focused on commercial equipment, but honestly, that's my specialty. Is the commercial side of the equipment for amateur radio. And I'm hoping to get into more HF stuff now that summertime's finally here. But up here is extremely hard, at least in this area. I don't know what it's like in the rest of the country. Maybe it's kind of a overarching thing, but these days it seems like it's really, really hard to get a good Elmer, someone who's going to spend time with you, show you how, the proper operating practices and how to set up an antenna and, how to program your radio, how to terminate a coax. It's almost impossible to find someone that will help you do that these days, at least up here anyway. So we need more of that. We need more passing of the torch, passing of knowledge, for sure.
Yeah, and if any of our listeners have any questions or whatever, feel free to send them over to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I've been answering questions via email and through comments on videos and direct messaging. So the questions have been coming in. I do my best to answer as many as possible. Sometimes you get a comment that shows up on an older video and YouTube doesn't notify me that a new comment has been posted. So, do what you can, but can't get them all, I guess. Try to, but can't. So, the other part of it is some people aren't as willing to learn as they used to be, because I have noticed that my shorter videos, like the YouTube shorts that are just like 10 or 15 seconds long, do way better than the long format stuff does. And I'll call it medium format stuff because it's typically only about a half hour, 40 minutes long, my videos. I think I got one out that's maybe an hour. But they don't get nearly the fraction of the views that the super short ones do. So, and to me, it's like you can't convey complex subject matter in 5 minutes or even 10 minutes or whatever. Like trying to tell somebody, like trying to demonstrate to someone how to program an XTL isn't going to happen in a 10-minute video. So,
I mean, not even how to terminate a coax in 5 minutes.
Right.
Maybe 15. Yeah, you'll get a decent understanding. And if you make a video that's 15 minutes long on it, Alan, you sent it to me, I could probably watch it 4 or 5 times over and over and over and figure it out. But yeah, definitely not in the shorter videos.
Yeah, the short videos are just, to me, I subscribe to quite a few more like technically minded YouTube channels. There's some of them out there that, man, they really could have had a nice thing, but the videos are only like 5 or 6 minutes long. And it's like you're just barely skimming the surface on that subject, whatever the subject is they're talking about, There was one video I was watching about it was a thought experiment having a power source and a light bulb that is 1 meter apart, but the circuit was one light second in length. And the question is when you close the switch, how fast will that light bulb turn on? How long will it take for the light bulb to illuminate? Because, everyone likes to think that electricity, moves at the speed of light, so it should take 1 second, for the light bulb to turn on. But in fact, what happens is the light bulb turns on instantaneously because we're not dealing with perfect conductors here. The lights, we're 1 meter apart, so you've got effectively a transmission line, so you're getting some capacitive coupling, so you're a very small amount of current actually starts to flow through the inductance between the lines. So the lamp will start to illuminate immediately. So it's kind of a neat thing, but the video was like I said, like 6 minutes long, and it's just did such a terrible job of trying to convey the actual physics of what was going on. So that's kind of frustrating, I guess. Yeah, Victor. So now I just do my own thing. Learn more from CBers. Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, I was just typing a response here to him, but
Yeah.
I'll just say it. Most of what I've learned for amateur radio, I've learned from YouTube, or from you guys, Matt, Alan, Troy. Troy taught me quite a bit of stuff too.
Yeah.
We should try to get
Otherwise,
at some point.
I've had a couple older guys. JV's helped me out with some stuff. And then there was a guy up in Thief River that helped me out with some VHF stuff, doing a mobile install and stuff like that. So that was helpful. I wouldn't have figured that out on my own. I mean, I probably could have, but it was nice to have the help there. But yeah, just the people willing to teach, it's not there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Right.
especially up in your guys' area.
I
I
mean,
haven't figured it out around this area. I want to get into amateur radio locally, but I don't. So
it is kind of sad, when you join a club to associate with like-minded people, and you play, like I think Victor made that point too. You pay your club dues, and what you get in return. Up here it was a lot of red tape, and it was a business meeting, is what it turned out to be, and it was just no fun. Wasn't
good
learning
old boys
anything.
club.
Yeah, there was some of that too. But now, I same just like Victor, I do my own thing. Fortunately, we have YouTube now. I learned a lot from JV, but honestly, I've learned a substantial amount from other YouTube channels, and I'm fortunate enough to kind of have the ability to kind of self-teach and learn from mistakes. So I think everyone's kind of got that skill, but not everyone puts it into practice, I guess. I'm certainly not afraid to blow something up for science. So, but I don't know. And that's the other. Okay, so I remember talking. This was something I covered in one of my previous videos about staying away from forums. Because what you'll find in especially forums for commercial radio equipment, like if you're struggling to program your XTL or your APX or XTS or whatever you got, if you went to like Bat Boards or Radio Reference, or you went to any of the big Motorola specializing forums and ask a question, excuse me, more than likely you're going to get berated for not knowing the answer to it already. And then it will very quickly turn into a wiener comparing contest about who can be the most rude to you. And then someone's going to make the comment, and it's like, we don't want to spoon feed everyone information. It's like they assume that you haven't done any legwork. It's like, you know what? It's like, you can't, the average person off the street isn't going to be able to get the manuals for these things.
Right.
You're lucky if you can even find CPS the programming software for these things out there, much less any documentation on them. So short of just, beating your head against the wall for months with trial and error, and it's very easy to get one of these commercial radios into a state where it's unusable. So I mean, you gotta watch out. You gotta watch out for that. So staying off the forums is like one of the most encouraging things you can do. By all means, go to the forums, do your searches, and read. But you really got to be careful about posting a comment, because more than likely you're going to get torn apart, and it really shouldn't be that way. It's like we all weren't born with this innate knowledge of how to do this stuff. Everybody started from zero. We all can't be fortunate enough to, work for Mother Moto and have access to all the documentation and all the other stuff and have factory training, because Mother Moto does provide very, very good factory training. If you have a business account with Motorola Solutions, you get access to their training center, and they go through programming and all that other stuff, and so most people don't have access to that, and it's not cheap either. Like if you want to go through their training, like a training session with Mother Moto is going to cost you like $1,500 for a 6-hour class. So, and that's virtual learning. That's not hands-on. So.
Yep, I know. Back in the day, I did some forum reading on like you said, was it Bat Labs and whatnot.
Yeah.
I learned real quick to just read and then keep reading and keep reading, because a lot of the comments, like you said, were, we don't hand this out, we don't do that,
and for the
or this was posted months ago.
Yeah.
But they don't link to it.
Right.
They'll just say, go figure it out, that we had this discussion months ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now I got to go through and dig in more and more and
more. And the worst part about it is typically on like a forum site like that, the search function is just broken. It's just utterly useless. Yeah. And sometimes you don't even know what to search for. If you're coming in as a new ham, you don't even know what you don't know, So it's like, I need to program my radio. How if I don't have the manual for this thing, you might not even know you need a programming cable or external software for this. You may have one that comes with a DTNF mic on it, like my XTLs do, and assume that you can program it through that keypad like you can any ham radio or amateur radio grade piece of gear, which you just can't do unless you have the front panel programming option enabled, which Mother Moto does not lend out, easily.
No,
so,
and if you buy a radio that has it, you're going to pay a pretty penny for it.
You're going to pay a pretty penny for it.
I've looked at them.
Yeah, and it's not even... So the front panel programming for commercial radio isn't the same as what you're going to get for an amateur radio. The amateur radio grade equipment is very intuitive, the front panel program. Like an XTL, like a Series 3 XTL 5000 with front panel programming, it's not intuitive at all how to set that up. Not even a little bit. So there's still a massive learning curve with that. So, I mean, we just got to exercise patience with new people. I mean, sure, there's going to be those out there that want to be spoon-fed everything, and you kind of got to do your best to nudge them into doing their own legwork. But we got to be patient with the new ones. We were all new at some point. There was a day when you didn't know the difference between VHF and UHF. So I know true. It sounds funny to say that, but honestly, I mean, there was a day when I didn't know the difference between VHF and UHF. Why does that radio have a tall antenna on it? Why does that one have a short antenna on it? So why can you have a tall antenna for 800 megahertz and a short antenna for 800 megahertz? They're the same band. Why is there a difference? Yep. So, yeah, man, Victor's on fire today. It would be nice if people with knowledge would invite teens and college-age adults and have a club to teach the new generation. And then the younger generations teach old guys new stuff. That would be fantastic.
That's what we would call a perfect world.
What is this utopia? Sorry, what is this utopia you speak of?
That would be great, though. I would love that if we could get, a group of younger people that, and a group of older people that wanted to learn how to use digital and stuff like that,
Well,
like
here's
Matt
the other
was,
thing
like I
is
was
like,
talking with Matt earlier about how do you get Grid Tracker to work with
right.
N3FJP? I have no idea. The older hams don't know either, and they probably say, "Well, digital stinks because you can't run these two softwares together."
I'll be honest.
So they just, nope, never using that again. I'll stick to my CW.
I'll be honest. I don't have a clue how to do digital modes yet.
We'll,
We're getting
we'll
there.
learn you someday.
We're getting there. But I mean, it definitely needs to be a two-way street. I love learning things from the more senior generation. I love learning how big AM transmitters worked back in the day. That stuff just, I can't get enough of it. Like learning how to. I remember learning how to set up my first duplexer. Duplexers have been around forever. They're not new technology, but the first time I got to tune one, there's the way it's explained to you, and then there's the way you're actually going to have to do it, because it's more of an art form than it is a procedure. So, I would suggest getting a VNA if you're going to tune a duplexer. A spectrum analyzer will get you in the ballpark, but a VNA is really going to get you fine tune it to get your best insertion loss numbers and stuff.
We might have to do a video on that because I have no idea. I've heard of a VNA, vector network analyzer,
Yeah.
but I've never actually used one.
I don't have one.
You don't? I've
No.
seen they've got some cheap ones for like, what are they, $100 on
The Nano VNA?
Amazon. Yeah, which I've wanted to get one, but I don't know anything about them.
Maybe I should get a Nano VNA just to see if you could tune a duplexer with one. I have my spectrum analyzer, and like I said, it gets you in the ballpark, and honestly, it gets you close enough for what you need to do. I mean, yeah, with a VNA, you're going to get that last little ounce of performance out of it, but the spectrum analyzers are going to get you close enough.
It's gonna get you close.
I don't plan on tuning any duplexers anytime soon.
What? You're not a real ham
Come
then.
on, Matt.
I know.
You have a 50-foot tower in your backyard. You need to put a repeater in your basement so that you can use your tower.
I tell you one thing: you haven't lived until you've tuned a duplexer and you've mixed up your transmit and receive frequencies. So when you hook it up and try to put it into service, all sorts of excitement happens.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, you get all sorts of high SWR warnings, and nothing works right, and RF coming back into the shack, and oh man, it's a good time.
All of a sudden, you start feeling tingling in your fingertips.
Yeah, yeah. The computer monitors are doing weird things, and yeah, it's good stuff. It's definitely more of an art tuning duplexes. I'm by no means an expert at it. It still takes me way longer than, I've seen JV tune a duplexer, and he's like some sort of wizard. So
He's also been doing it his entire life.
exactly.
So.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, I
There
have.
you go, $139 for one that's got a bunch of different adapters, and all that right on. There you go, right on Amazon.com. I can probably have it. Well, let's see when I can get it.
As long as it doesn't come SurePost.
If you say Tuesday, if you say tomorrow, I'm going to be pissed.
Fastest delivery on this is Monday. If I
Still.
order within the next 2 hours.
That's still not bad.
Matt, you're technically higher in elevation than I am, aren't you?
No.
Or
I think I'm lower.
Oh, Matt's in a bowl basically.
really? I thought it was the other way around.
No.
You
Is it
totally
going
need to. You need to put a 6-meter repeater on the air. If you're not running a repeater where the duplexer cans are taller than you are, I mean, you're not trying.
So here's what I'm hearing. Alan, you're gonna come over. You're gonna put a little, building next to my tower, and you're gonna climb my tower.
Yeah.
You're gonna put an up there. And while you're up there, you're gonna fix my pulley
Yeah.
and hang another antenna.
I mean, honestly, I would love to convince the elevator here in town to let me set a combiner up because there's already a VHF antenna up there. I could set a combiner up and share it. So, and then put something on the air here. It'd probably be a VHF analog P25 setup, I guess, to start with. As much as I would like to go exclusively P25, Quantar can do both simultaneously, so it'd be a shame not to.
The only permission I'm trying to get right now is permission to go load up the local AM station.
Oh, you got that? Yeah, that's a 200-foot tower, isn't it?
I think it's just short of 400.
Ooh.
I work with the owner.
Is the tower itself the driven element?
Yes.
Oh, I love those. Yeah, have you seen the videos where they take the loading wire off the tower when it's transmitting, and you get the arc, the RF arc, and it demodulates the audio so you can hear the audio in the arc?
I have seen that.
Yeah.
Now get this.
Oh man.
The owner was telling me that they had to have somebody come replace some of the bulbs on the tower, and it was a father-son team doing this, and sent the son up first, and he's like, "Oh, just leave the AM on." So they were climbing this live tower, mind you, and he shoots up the tower. The son makes it up maybe a quarter of the way by the time Dad makes it to the top, and the son's tapping out about a quarter of the way up, going, "Turn it off!"
Yeah.
Turn it off.
That's no bueno, man. I've heard it personally before. So that 1310, the local AM station in Grand Forks here, if the weeds get too tall around that center tower, because they got the 3 towers, they run a phased array setup. But that center tower, if the weeds get too tall and the grass starts touching the tower, and it starts to arc, the grass will demodulate the audio. So it's pretty free. I mean RF. It's witchcraft, man. Pure witchcraft.
That's awesome.
So yeah, you should totally check that out on YouTube. There's a bunch of videos out there where they draw the arc. They take the loading cable off the tower and draw the arc on it, and it demodulates the audio, and you hear the station in the arc. It's wild. Clearly, that's with an older transmitter, a tube-driven transmitter that can handle the huge spike in SWR.
Handle it.
Yeah. The modern solid-state stuff would kick out for high VISWAR nearly immediately. And then the other thing, like the thing that just fascinates me is with the big AM stations, like 1310 up here. There's some nearby. There's like there's some farmland with a fence around it, and there's a little building at the end of one of the fences, and that's a detuning shack. They have to detune that fence line because it will resonate at the frequency that 1310 is on, and if that fence, so the radio station has to pay for that to detune that fence, because if that fence starts resonating, it's now retransmitting that station, and it's going to cause the pattern to radiate in an uncontrolled fashion from 1310. But it's also causing spurious emissions. So it's incumbent upon the license holder to detune that fence, so it's not a parasitic radiator. So, and then it's like, so since
I am definitely gonna share this video in the comments. That is crazy.
But and the other thing is, like, being so close to the Canadian border, they have to switch to low power at night. So they go down to 200 watts at sundown. And then they also steer their signal. They switch it to a more east-west instead of a north-south. So they change their phase angle because, like I said, they got that phased array set up. So
yeah.
I still don't know how they get away with not having any tower lights. So none of those towers are lit.
I would assume that is a FAA regulation.
Anything 200 feet or taller is supposed to be lit.
Well,
Should
and
be.
that's even changed because now I think it's 50 feet or taller, as long in certain situations. They can go as low as 50 feet. Like if you're out in the country and it's like the only thing within a certain distance or whatever.
Really?
You have to have a light on it. Also, if you're in the path of an airport.
Oh, sure, that makes sense.
If you're higher, you have to have light on it. There's all sorts of new stipulations that came out on that.
Okay.
Because I was like, great, now I'm gonna have to put a light on my tower.
I kind of wanted to put one on mine just because it looks neat. Although I don't think Tam would be very happy with a giant red flashing light on top of the tower in the backyard. The neighbors probably definitely wouldn't appreciate it. So, I've also done that experiment where you take a small fluorescent tube and you tape it to your antenna, your HF antenna, and where my lab is, if I look out the window, I can see the quote, use my air quotes, the driven side of that fan dipole. And you can see that fluorescent tube flicker when you transmit on sideband. So,
Really?
yeah.
Yes, a local ham here, he was actually telling me that that's how they used to tune
Yep.
their amplifiers.
Yeah, you tune it for maximum brightness.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Seriously, that's the real deal. And that's how he tuned his radios up in his building, because he had just this wire that ran across his entire, like.
I will tell you, I have made a 20-meter contact on a light bulb before.
Really?
Yeah.
I've wanted to try that. That'd be fun.
It is not efficient.
I think all the stars have to align for it to happen. But
It's not efficient. Your power amplifier will hate you. But it can be done. I wouldn't encourage a long rag chew on it, but it can. And the cool part is you get to watch the light bulb flicker on and off as you're talking. So
This goes back to that T-shirt that we need to make. I load that.
yes.
this is supposed to be a G-rated channel, Matt. Can't say things like that.
And this is my last episode, guys.
Yeah.
So.
No, I remember we were talking
on
about that.
Note,
Yeah. I think we had originally talked about, it was one of the parks in Grand Forks. They had a tennis court with a fence around it, but they had one gap where you could walk into it. I thought we had talked about one time taking that big 3000 tuner down there and trying to load that fence up.
We had talked about one of the fences. I don't know if that was it.
Because
We also had that abandoned tower that we were thinking about.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's grounded though. That tower.
Yeah, that one.
It's got the guy wires that ground it, so that might not work so well. The fence though, well, I guess technically the fence is grounded too. But you got enough. I think you've got enough. If you loaded it at the very top of the fence, I think you could probably get it on maybe 15 meters without too much
seen
trouble.
A video of I have maybe it was a picture, but a picture of a guy loading up a grain bin.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you guys had saw that or not.
What you'd have to do, Alan, is you'd have to find a fence, like one of these cattle fences or whatever, where you got wood posts.
Oh yep. Well,
Do an
isn't that where?
electric fence?
Isn't that where?
Electric fence? Just unplug it from the
Yeah.
electrifier.
Well, isn't that where Christian Kudnick, the 100 watts in a wire? Isn't that how that got started?
Oh, I have no clue.
I think that's how that's how that got started. It was I want to say it was a Texas rancher because he had like miles and miles and miles of barbed wire fences, and he was just loading up the top section of his fence and using that.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I bet you could tune 160.
What is that? The 2600 meter band?
2200.
2200.
2200?
Yeah, when your loading coil has to be the size of a 55-gallon drum, and you still can't even get an eighth of a wave with it.
Yep.
I still want to try it though.
Oh, geez. I wish you could see the amount of noise I'm getting on 80 meters right now. I'm like 20 plus.
You look concerned.
Well, yeah. I mean, my waterfall is a blue that I've never seen before. It's almost white.
See, these terms, waterfall, noise, 80 meters, to the uninitiated, they're absolutely meaningless.
Well, as far as this noise or static,
Oops.
every night at a certain time, it's like the meters, like the water meter or power meter or something, are talking out, and it will wipe out every band.
So
Just
you're on what? You said you're on 80.
yeah,
I just switched mine over to 80, and it's a solid S9 here.
I was 20 over.
Really?
Yeah,
Even let me go back down to 40. Yeah, even 40 meter is probably a solid S5, which is uncharacteristic. Usually I have no noise.
so I'd be curious. Let's give it about 5 minutes, and we'll see if this drops off, because that's what normally happens. There'll be like a span of like 5-10 minutes that'll just be like, 20 over or whatever.
Hello, Cannon. 1 hour from the desert, 1 hour from the beach, 1 hour from the entity,
Can you hear that?
1 hour
Yeah.
from the major city, Los Angeles downtown, and
See, that's the other problem you run into. There's another station just right next to them, but I'm guessing they can't hear each other because of band conditions.
But you can hear both.
But I can hear both of them, and so that was one thing I forgot to bring up during the whole pet peeve thing is people showing up mid rag shoe saying the frequency's in use because the band conditions have changed and now they can hear you. So another thing to watch out for. But yeah, noise floor is really high tonight. So maybe because it's dry out. I don't know.
Sounds
but
like
yeah,
we're gonna get rain tomorrow though. So
it's supposed to rain all weekend. It's the weekend, so naturally it's going to be rainy. But well, we're coming up on the 1.5 hour mark of our 1 hour podcast.
That's
So,
usually how it goes.
yeah. We need to come up with an idea for a guest. I nominate Victor. Victor is going to be our guest
Victor?
next
there you go.
next month's live stream. Matt, it's incumbent upon you to get him set up on Zoom.
Yep.
Shouldn't be a problem.
It's of course up to Victor if he wants to do it or not. I'm certainly not going to pressure him into him. Although
Yeah,
I will be very
definitely welcome
disappointed.
now.
Yeah.
Do we have a topic?
What?
Do we have a topic, or are we gonna try to do like a Q&A?
For next month?
Yeah.
These
I mean, we
questions
didn't come up
these
with a
questions you're
topic
asking,
this
Matt,
week
are
until-
are very difficult. I mean, these are I don't know what you're getting at, Matt. Topic, planning?
Come on, Matt. It's a Friday night.
Yeah. I didn't come up with a topic for this one until literally about 20 minutes before we got started. So we're just going to wing it as usual. It's more fun that way.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun to wing it.
Yeah.
Those couple of times where we did have like a scripted thing, it was just
It was,
like
it was an unmitigated
I-
disaster, for at least on my end anyway.
Well, I don't know if
Same
it's
here.
scripted, but okay, maybe I just need to be a little bit more prepared, because I feel like I come in and have nothing to contribute. So
Victor said he would do it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Victor. Let's do it.
Yep. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited.
It's cool. I'm excited for it too.
Yeah.
I know the beginning of June I will be up in Minnesota, probably in my hometown, so not in your guys' area.
Oh
So
no.
we'll have to figure out a different date, because we've been doing it the first Friday, right?
Yeah.
We might have to do the second Friday next month.
That's fine.
I'll let you know for
I mean,
sure, though.
the channel is small enough. I doubt anyone's going to notice.
I mean, Tamara will notice. I know that. She's been here every episode.
Yeah. Man, I still have this Mitutoyo height gauge to get to you too.
Ooh. Okay, if I come up to Minnesota next month, I'm gonna have to drive up and pick that up.
I mean, I could always ship it too. I would probably want to build a crate for it though.
I know, that's what I was thinking. What about those, like, getting a box that size? Do they have that, like, expanding foam stuff that built, that
Oh, yeah.
expands around it?
Yeah.
Would that be enough for it, or?
I don't know. It's heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got a cast iron base, and you know, it's quite a precision instrument. So I probably would want to build a crate for it if I shipped it, and then secured it in a crate somehow.
Send it via OPX or OXB or whatever it is.
Sure post.
No.
You'll get the notification. It's like, 6 of 6 packages. It's like, what? It should only be one.
You know, so my dad had actually ordered something, and it had come USPS, and it was like, I think it was a model railroad catalog or magazine or something like that, and he had ordered it off of eBay. It arrived in a bag with a note from USPS that said, "We care," and this thing was just shredded.
That's awesome. Well, I think it's about that time.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think we'll wrap it. As usual, it has been a absolute blast shooting the breeze, talking ham radio. This episode was a bit more on the negative side, I think. But, I mean, you're going to have that, especially with me. Just
No.
naturally negative, I guess. But I have high hopes for next episode. Victor is going to be the beacon of joy and
Yes.
excitement we all need.
Yep. I need someone to tame this down a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to be the voice of reason. So, anyway, like I said, it's been an absolute blast. We'll do this again next month. Date will be dependent on Chris's schedule, so we'll keep everybody posted. Matt, I trust you'll keep Victor posted as to
Oh, for sure.
the goings on. So,
For sure.
anyway, this has been The Long Wire, episode 4, 2 Amateur for Amateur Radio. This is N0 ZFG. Out.
We now return the frequency back to normal amateur operations. We thank you for your patience and your understanding. 73.